Cameron Perez Verdia.
Mark Littlefield.
Jared Gerker.
Zach Johnson.
Anna Brawley.
Mike Zell.
Christopher Constant.
Daniel Boland.
Keith McCormick.
Aaron Baldwin Day.
Yara Silvers.
All right, so this work session will be informal. First names, keep it easy. The purpose of our meeting today is called the handoff session between incoming, current, and outgoing members. And this tradition started not so long ago, really 2 years ago, with the incoming members that are now here before you. And we just decided it's a really good way to punctuate the conversation because there are so many things happening and there's so much desire to jump in and be right on the leading edge to getting things done. And it's just all kinds of ongoing business. So the first thing we'll do, we did a brief introduction just for the record, but now we're going to go around the table and ask each member to introduce themselves for about a minute, or each incoming member, and kind of questions for the current members and outgoing members, what you thought it would be like to serve on the assembly and what it's actually like. And then to the incoming members, what is your burning passion that you hope to work on? So, and that's like just a minute each, not a super long time, not too short, but just enough so people get a sense. And so we'll go ahead and start with Mr. Martinez, because you're in the pole position over there. And that's like what you thought it'd be like versus what it actually is like, and whatever else you want to say.
Yeah, you're not gonna get a lot out of me on this one, Chair. I'll try my best. Lots of time, but I kind of knew that already coming in, and in a nutshell, I have a new term for us: sovereign savages, which basically means there's 12 sovereigns and they can do anything they want within the realm of the code and the legality of it. And there's an old phrase where people say herding cats. Try herding sovereign savages. It's a little more difficult. And so my vantage point is early communication, transparency as best as folks can, and consistency can help get things through what otherwise would be unpredictability often. That's my experience best in terms of like coming into the body and the different types of expectations. So, yeah.
Hard to go first. Thanks for that, Mr. Martinez. George.
So two parts, what it is versus what I thought maybe, and then just things that I'm really interested in. Well, I would say that it's changed a lot since I got on the body. And so the different iterations, depending on who's in the administration or who's on the body, has definitely changed a lot. And so without going through all of that, I will just say that I think I've said this a few times, that I think based on my experience in the past two administrations, I think we find ourselves in a really unique opportunity and a unique time. So I'm actually feeling really excited about that. Excited about what we can accomplish. I've been focusing a lot of my energy and passions, if that's the word, on things like public safety and homelessness, and focusing on vulnerable populations, and so that will be something that I will continue to do. And Meg often calls me the process per person, but I will just say that I really do like plans. I like to have thoughtful plans that we can, all of these sovereign radical people can somewhat savages, there you go, savages can maybe not fully buy into, but at least partially buy into, so we have some sort of like collective potential for what we could all do. And so that's exciting to think about. What are some of the few things that we all think are really important and we can get done in the next year or 2 years? So that excites me as well.
Mark.
Thank you. only being here a year, and like I said, I've been a muni employee for 28 years, so I've been watching because of everything that you guys did, that the assembly did, affected me in my job. So coming into this, I envisioned a constant battle for almost a year straight with admin, with the administration, with assembly members trying to get things accomplished. And the absolute reversal is exactly what it is. Everybody works together for a common goal. It may not be everybody's common goal. I have yet to find anywhere in my days and my years where if I didn't ask a question, I wasn't afforded an answer. And everybody here is willing to help. Everybody's willing to help. The legislative staff is great. The legislative council is wonderful. I can't say enough, but thanks. It's been an experience I'll never forget. And I have no regrets whatsoever. I enjoyed every minute of it. And I look forward to seeing what you guys do. Thanks.
Karen.
Thanks. I'm with Mark. You know, it's kind of, I feel like stepping onto this body was the bravest thing that I've ever done. I guess, you know, walking into a classroom of kindergartners is one thing, but this was bigger. And I loved that. I think Austin Quinn Davidson told me at the start, it is so interesting. You're going to learn so much. You just are going to just feel so empowered. And she was right. I mean, I had no idea some of the inner workings. And what I'm really grateful for is, and I also feel bad about this, is that when we have a revolving door of assembly people, like I just did this 2 years, people invested a lot of time in having me come and talk me through AWU processes and what planning services does. You know, people have invested a lot of time, and I really do appreciate that. And I think more and more about, you know, the interactions that I've had with public, and, you know, if they only knew that it's such a fabulous thing that you step forward, and that you should, you know, even if you're frustrated, try to find some kindness in what you say. The other thing that I wanted to say is my experience. I really thought I was pretty much a raging liberal. My experience on the dais is, I guess I'm more a Republican. I don't know. I didn't know that, but here we go. And so I found that after the first meeting, someone sent me a message and said, if you don't know how to vote, why don't you look to see what Meg does? Oh my God, I'm a grown up. So anyway, I have spent a lot of time, I would say probably answering more emails. A lot of people have their aides do it, but it's one thing that I really appreciated, answering emails and reading them. And I take calls. I forward the calls from here to my own cell phone, and I take those calls. And I was telling Yarrow earlier, if I could do something different, you know, it'd probably be better at, this is when I'm not going to do that, because it got really annoying at my house. I was always having a call with somebody. And if I set better boundaries, you're in it for the long haul. You don't want to be taking calls on Christmas Day about a road plowing issue. So anyway, thanks.
Right. Now, a new member, Mr. Kirk or Jared, again, kind of thoughts on what you think you're going to be doing, any particular areas and issues you want to work on, just first introduction to the body.
Yeah, really appreciate it, and welcome to the GOP, Karen. So yeah, no, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate being here. It is an honor, and I truly see that. And Mark, I want to thank you for your service, not only on this body, but to the muni prior to that. I mean, you've served this community with honor and distinction for many, many years. So thank you. It's definitely big shoes to step in and fill. For me, stepping in, the biggest thing that I want to focus on is public safety. To those who might not be familiar with my story, you know, I first ran when my brother was murdered. at the end of 2023. And so that really put a kind of a burning fire in my heart that we've got to do something about our broken criminal justice system in this state and in this city. So that's, for me, that's what's driving me. Public safety is issue number one. And that takes a lot of different, looks like a lot of different things at the local level. And I'm really excited to be here and dive in and just get into the work. So thank you.
Zach.
Yeah, thanks. I guess amongst things that surprised me, honestly, the grind of this job. I think a grind is a fair way to describe it. We're the only level of government that's in session year round. And you get through a meeting one week and then you show up the next week and you got a whole nother binder full of problems for you to address. So, I mean, it takes a lot of commitment. It sometimes comes in waves, but it never stops for us. I'll tell you another thing that surprised me, honestly, is my colleagues, and still continue to surprise me. I mean, I think you have a certain perception of this body and how it works when you're looking at it sort of from the outside, and the limited information you get. But then you get in here and it's, the reality is different. I mean, I often have people coming up to me, in public or community council meetings, like, so how do you think, this vote's going to go on that thing? And I'll be like, hell if I know, man. These people will surprise you. And I think that's a good thing. We don't always break down into neat little categories to where we always have a clear sense of how things are going to go. And I love that nuance that we all bring to the conversation. In terms of things that were somewhat surprising, but I actually really enjoy about it, is, about 80% of the attention this body gets is the work we do on the regular meetings and the Tuesday nights, right? But reality is about 80% of the work we do tends to happen here in our committee meetings and the work sessions and all that. And I really do enjoy that. It's such a neat opportunity. I took this job because I love Anchorage and I want Anchorage to do better. And 3, 4, 5 times a week, I sit down in this room with people who are also committed to that. And we have really good conversations that help me understand how our city works and all the different little things we can do to help make it better. And I enjoy that work. I enjoy, I think as Mark pointed out, that the confidence that everyone in this building, I think, is here to help each other out and see each other succeed. Not always agree, but ultimately motivated as part of the same mission. So yeah, it's as I often say, the assembly work is always meaningful, and it is sometimes fun.
Anna.
Yeah, thanks. So I've been here 2 years now, and I remember sitting in this work session 2 years ago. One thing I said is that I'm going to nerd out 1,000% on this job. So I feel like I'm carrying forward that promise, probably to excess. Other things I'm really passionate about and continue to be working on is housing. And then really, I think the way to put a theme around a lot of the different things that we're working on, that we're talking about, is what is the future of the city? And that's not just for the assembly to decide, obviously, but we have a big part in that. And I really want to put those questions to the community at large and engage with that. So that's where I'm going to be focusing. In terms of kind of surprising things, I will pick up on Zach's comment about grind. I was thinking of the phrase grind set, for those who are terminally online. So grind can be good and bad. I describe it as a calendar treadmill, that you're always in the middle of deadlines for the next meeting, the meeting after that. And I think internalizing that reality and figuring out how to get ahead of the treadmill, how to get ahead of the calendar, think further out than you might have before. That's always been a challenge for me. I don't like deadlines, but that's something to think about. So that's some advice, is just kind of when you need to make the space and the time to get your priorities done. The other thing is the unpredictable outcome. I remember asking now former assembly members, what do you think will happen on this item, or what's the vote? And a lot of times the answer is, I don't know yet. And it really is true. From the outside, it may not be obvious, but we walk into those meetings. A lot of times you kind of do have a sense of what the outcome will likely be on an item. You've seen, contracts, things like that. But for the really big stuff, often it's unknown and you don't know what your colleagues are going to do. And that is the Open Meetings Act at work. And so it gives an unpredictability, I think, that's interesting. And there's not a scenario where we're all going in the back room and, and figuring it out beforehand. It happens in real time, which can make it messy, but that's the nature of the job. Lastly, I'll just say what I say to folks who consider running for office. You become who you need to be. So this job is hard. It looks hard. It's weird to step into it on day one. but you will figure it out. You'll find your footing, and yeah, you become the person you need to be for the job.
Meg.
Yeah, so I've had probably, and I think Cameron and I were in the same kind of inaugural class in 2019, one of the most dynamic 2 terms of 6 years. Things were just unprecedented. And so I think that really colors my experience in a way that I don't have much from before that, and we're just coming out of it. So I have, I think, a really different perspective. I would say a couple of things. One, do not take the current support you will have in this branch for granted. There was a time none of this existed, no legislative services. It was dean, a clerk, and the members, and an aide if you could get one. So please don't take that for granted. Please be really cognizant that we now have staff and employees that were hard fought and won. Similarly, the offices, just having an office wasn't something that existed when I started. And it always takes someone to champion those things. So sometimes the internal work is just as important, if not more so, than the external work. Your urgency on something, you cannot make anyone own your urgency. So you may come to the dais on a Tuesday night with something you believe is like the most urgent issue that could ever exist for the municipality, but your urgency is not your colleague's urgency necessarily. You get a chance to try to convince them, but more often than not, on a deliberative body, you're going to have a hard time doing so. I've learned that the hard way, like the real hard way. And then I would say 2 things. Be yourself, know who you are, know what you stand for, and don't lose sight of it. I know that I have been my most authentic self on this body for better or worse, and I know my constituents appreciate that. Um, and then you step into the role that you end up occupying. I'm really, this has been the hardest job I think I've ever had, and I've had some hard jobs. But I think partly the difficulty of this job is really unprecedented times. But it's also the most enjoyable job I've ever had. I have new friends because of it. Understand. And just such a deep appreciation for the people who love this city. Like, there are some serious ride or die people in this city that you don't even know about. They are working on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th floor over at Tudor and Elmore that love this city more than anything in the world. And it is amazing to bear witness to that and be a part of.
Welcome. And welcome. I think that along the line of what Anna said about you become who you need to be, you are coming here with an idea of what you're going to do and a list of ideas in your back of your mind. Probably these are the things I'm going to work on and this is what I'm going to get done. I really came to this job fighting for my neighborhood, Fairview, and the broken highway system and the failures of our city and our state and our federal government to treat that neighborhood fairly. And I was doing that work. I had one mission really separate from that, which was to add a 12th member to the assembly so that my neighbors could be fairly treated on that account, because there was so much kind of unfairness, and fairness is a core value for me. But what I quickly realized is that as much as I am a sovereign and able to introduce or drive or push for any of the things that I want, as Meg said, with my passion maybe communicating to my peers or not, the reality is the job will take you to a place and to places where you have to act. Your job is to respond to the moment, not only to create new things or ways or expenditures or processes. This job will carry you like a river. And so sometimes it'll feel like you're drowning, and other times you'll feel like you're surfing, and everything in between. And you will find who you're naturally good at working with. I think Meg set an example for all of us in setting a benchmark of working on actual projects that were proposed onto the agenda and passed off the agenda with every single member she served with. And I really, in all the years I've been doing this, have only had one person I couldn't work with. And that's extraordinary when you think about all of these people and all of the work that you're doing and can do, that you can find common cause with just about anybody on any number of issues that are important to this moment and to the future. We are working both on the future and on today. You know, the crisis in the streets is a tomorrow problem, but it's a today problem. And it was a yesterday problem that didn't get managed properly. Also, I think that it benefits us to have some forbearance or give grace to the people who came before us. And I don't mean even these people here, but 20 years ago and 30 years ago, who probably did what they thought was the best when they were sitting in these seats. And it turns out maybe it wasn't the best, but they probably did the best that they had with the information that they were given or were able to acquire. And as I sit here today, as you will sit here tomorrow, in 20 years, people will be looking back at you and think, what the hell were you thinking? And so just keep your eyes on yesterday, today, and tomorrow all at once, and you'll be fine. Also, your families are going to serve with you, whether you like it or not, and you will become public property. You will become a piece of the public very soon, and figure out how to come to peace with that. And also, somebody said it, have boundaries. Your boundaries are going to be your thing that save you from getting taken under the surface of that river as it goes. And so, and care for your families. So I think those are my words for now on this first go. Daniel.
Okay, yeah, this is exciting. I think we are welcoming a really good team, and it's, I think, bittersweet because I'm sad to see some members go, but excited for those that are staying on with me and those who are joining. I think in terms of surprises or challenges in this work, I think one of the challenges is how do you balance the needs of the municipality as a whole and what drives our city in a positive direction versus in this job, how do you when are you the elected representative advocating for the needs of different constituent stakeholder groups like community councils or other groups? And I think you just have to hold that in a balance because there are some times when those things are in conflict. And I think what this work has really revealed to me, and also what this recent campaign season revealed to me too, is that no one's views are monolithic. And so I think when you approach this work, when you want input on your legislation or budget decisions, the wider you cast the net, the better. Because there's going to be times where there are very vocal groups in your district who are advocating for one thing, and there may be another group advocating the exact opposite. For example, in my own district, I think one recent sort of controversial thing where our district was pretty deeply divided was the sales tax proposal. A lot of folks really were urging me to support it. A lot of folks really were expressing concerns, and I think we have a duty to listen to as many people as we can, but knowing that, I guess a couple of things are true. Number one, I think you will receive help and support from places you don't even expect yet. People will come to your aid. They want to support something you're working on. People you don't even know yet. And so that's been, I think, one of the blessings of this job is just making those relationships and having that support, those people working on your behalf and kind of fighting behind you. But then also, it's true that those who support you today, you might make some decisions that upset them or that they don't agree with. And I think there are some who maybe have supported you on this path who maybe in the future will not be a supporter. I've experienced that. But at the end of the day, you have to do what you think is right. Again, achieving that balance for the future of our city, but also your duties as representing constituents. And then two other things I would say is put your own health first, physical and mental well-being. I think this job can be challenging to both of those things. but you can't perform well if you're not feeling healthy. And then also social media is definitely a two-edged sword. Debating things online is never worth it.
Keith.
Yeah, thank you everyone for hosting the transition workshop. I think it's valuable, and thank you for all of your words of wisdom, advice, encouragement. I've met with just about every member of this body, and everyone has been incredibly welcoming and supportive. So thank you. And I know Randy's not here tuned in with us right now, but thanks to Randy. He was an excellent assemblyman for our district. I wish he could have run again for us because he did great work. So like Jared said, big shoes to come in and fill. Things I'm looking to work on, public safety, housing and homelessness will be a big topic that I'd like to address and look at, along with, as we talked earlier, fire mitigation efforts. Thank you.
Aaron.
Hi, everybody. I'm Erin. I was actually sitting here having a little bit of a reflective moment about a conversation that Meg and I had over coffee in August, I believe, which was the first real inkling that I had that I might think about running for public office. And speaking of massive shoes to fill, the weight of expectation of following Meg Zalatel on the Anchorage Assembly is unreal. So I think that's something that I'm certainly bringing with me into the room is how absolutely prolific Meg has been as a legislator and how effective she has been in shaping Anchorage in really important and positive ways. So I am grateful to stand on those shoulders and also aware of the expectation that comes along with following her. I'm excited to work on housing and housing issues. I'm excited to work on housing supply, and that was the policy work that brought me to the Assembly in the first place. I'm a little bit of an infrastructure and land use nerd, so I'm excited to also work on transportation issues, and then whatever else comes before us. And I think at this point, I'm just acutely aware that I don't know what I don't know. And it feels like I'm going to be leaning pretty hard on the more experienced members of the body to help chart the course and help me learn how to be effective in the work that I hope to do, and to also be responsive and thoughtful in the work that I don't even know how to expect yet. So thank you all for your welcome.
Yarrow.
My name is Yarrow. I'm excited to be here today and excited to serve my district, East Anchorage, and grateful for Karen's service before mine. The things I want to work on, I think, are exactly the things that I talked about in my campaign, which is affordable housing, clean, safe streets and parks, transparent government, and bolstering economic opportunities. Thanks.
All right, so the next part, we're going to give Meg the floor for a few minutes. I don't know if you knew this. Oh, you want Randy's comments? Yeah, go ahead.
Member Solt wasn't able to join us today, but he sent me some words of wisdom he wanted to share with everyone. He said the first two he stole from Meg. Treat each item separately. You will win or lose, get your butt kicked or not. The next item is completely different. Drop your emotions and do the work. Number two, homelessness is a big issue. And when it comes to shelter or housing, answer these two questions. Would you live in it or would you live next to it? Take advantage of legislative services. They are a great and huge help. Remember, I didn't add that. He said it. Do not encourage more emails and meetings. Set your office phone to forward to your cell phone voicemail. Helps to notify you when someone leaves a message and you can respond quickly. Personally, I respond to all emails sent to me. They deserve an answer, even if it's not the one they want. The general assembly all email, I triage, but I don't have the same commitment. 90% of our job is just helping citizens navigate City Hall.
That part is rewarding for sure. Don't focus on the people. Try to focus on how you can get to yes. We are left, right, or plumb crazy, but we are all Alaskan and Anchorageanians or anchorites. If you keep that alignment and focus on what is best for the citizens, where you can agree the work is easy and we all vote yes. Finally, election cycles suck. Take a shower, rinse off, and forget about it. If I were to go back and do it over, I think I would be 100% focused on crime and homelessness. It is the most important issue. Everything else is just the music as the ship is sinking. Sure, it's nice to listen, but the ship is still sinking. And then he didn't really explain this, so people might not know what it's talking about, but he had mentioned this a couple weeks ago. Remember, one flashlight pointing in one direction with 12 hands on it, 13 with the mayors. I think if you remember a couple weeks ago, he talked about how the assembly is 12 members with flashlights all going in different directions. So the first step is to all point the flashlights in the same direction, but then the next step is to each let go and then just hold that one flashlight together. So that's what he meant by that. That's what Randy has to say.
Yeah.
All right. There might be time. There might be time still. Everybody bring your flashlights.
For the record, Randy, if you hear this, do a poem on Tuesday night.
All right, Meg. So this is on the theme of big projects that need stewards.
All right. I'm like a broken record right now, but there are big continuing projects that you will never see all the way through likely in your term. But they need stewards. They are things like the port modernization program, any capital endeavor that a utility is undertaking, quite frankly, the Eklutna River, AMATS. AMATS is a little bit different because it has a committee structure, but these things need folks who can dig in and track them because they're dynamic and they're moving, and you get to partner with the administration in that. Because this body can't be an expert in everything. We are a mile wide and an inch deep. And so the way this body works best, in my opinion, is when members can divide those types of items up and have a champion for them so that you get someone, if it's not you, to lean into the item. And they can, and you keep that policy maker's brain at the forefront of these big items. They can get pretty technical sometimes. The administration might be driving towards a timeline and these boxes they have to check, and no one's in their ear saying, yeah, but the appropriators need to know X, Y, and Z. Or in order to make those choices, the policymakers are going to need to know X, Y, and Z. I'm going to share a small anecdote with you. And this is with the greatest love for public finance. When we were trying to figure out the plan of finance for the port, I met with public finance 3 times before we got to the level where it was appropriate for assembly members. We were so far in the weeds. I was like, nope, we have to come back up. And it just took us meeting over and over and over again. They are market experts. They understand public finance tools in a way we don't need to. But there's certain information we need to get. And it really took building a relationship and learning how to speak each other's language. So I would really encourage you to think about, there are lots of really exciting things happening in this municipality. This municipality is open for business, where you might want to braid into those. Waste to energy, pump storage, hydro, Eklutna, absent pump storage, hydro, continuing with the port modernization. Zach has stepped into so many of these, but there are a lot of them. There are more moving now than there were before. So I encourage you to think about that, not just new members, FYI. The expertise members who are remaining on the body could really lean into it with a little bit less of a learning curve, or could lean in and mentor a new member. So I think there are lots of options.
And decisions on those big questions are decisions for tomorrow. And just know that we're asking everybody to do their part. Their part is choose your own adventure, meaning you get to opt in where your interests and time allow. And with that, there are some big things that may even exceed your capacity and time, even if you were to serve the 3 terms that the charter allows you, which would be 9 years. And so some of the work we do is work that you will not see the conclusion of. Some of the work is work that we won't see the benefit of for 50 years.
You might find an unexpected love affair. Like I have a love affair with the port. I never would have expected to happen. So, and ports around the world now. Like it's not just our port. I mean, our port's number one, but I'm really interested in ports. So just be open to that possibility.
Tampa was fun.
Tampa was awesome.
Yeah. And we got to meet the Secretary of Transportation and Congress members, and those kind of opportunities come from a particular focus. Okay, so the next part of our agenda is just a kind of open-ended question and answer. I'll facilitate, but anybody can ask questions or answer questions if anyone has any. No?
So
Okay,
I'll
go
just say I
ahead.
didn't have any questions because members have been so open and reached out prior that I've been in such close communication that I feel like a lot of my questions have been answered. So it's not that I don't have a question for you, but I feel like we've gone through a lot of them. So thank you.
I think that some members of the staff would be grateful if members didn't have questions, because it might be a signpost for the future that we'll get through the work, because the work is questions. So any other questions, comments?
Here's the questions that should be asked.
Anna, or I'm sorry, Meg.
So there are a number of questions I would ask if I were you. The types of questions I would ask are, who should I start to talk with in the administration? And you can talk to other members about that as you start to develop those relationships. Where you're wanting to dig in first is a vast municipality, and it takes a while to understand how you figure out where to route things. Your emails will start day one, and so will the constituent questions and issues, and learning how to route those things to the right place. So I would be asking, and I've had really great mentorship from Felix and Christopher on like, hey, where would I send that again? Or who is that person? Chris knows everyone, not that he has to be your only source. So I would definitely be asking that. I would be asking, when are you going to train me up about fund certifications and what money can be spent on what? It is literally in every agenda, because that is the thing that's part of your oversight of the budget. So I would definitely be asking that question as well. So those are two. I'm sure I'll think of more.
Aaron.
I think my question is maybe along those lines, but what are the administrative systems that we need to get to know first, and who would be the best people to interview or have a one-to-one with, or take for coffee in order to get a brief on those things?
So I think that we've set up a pretty robust training schedule, like an onboarding process, which is several days worth of your time. And so many of those questions will really get kind of sorted out in those conversations and start to get the juices flowing. The way that our branch is structured, you have what I have come to call, we have a series of offices. We have charter offices, and then we have code offices. And so there's a bit of a hierarchy there. The assembly is created in the charter, is an office, essentially. It's the whole thing. And then the clerk's office is essentially the chief administrator of our business. And they are kind of appointed by us and created by us. And there are a lot of staff in the clerk's office doing a lot of different things, whether it's alcohol and marijuana licensing or other licensing issues, whether it's agendas, whether it's, there's just all kinds. The deputy clerk, the clerk elections, they're all clerks essentially. And then we have, under the code-based offices, we have our assembly council and legislative council offices, the attorneys who provide support to us. The charter provided us the opportunity to create these code-based offices as staff and other professionals that we might need. And then legislative services is the newest creation under those offices. And I left out the ombudsman. The ombudsman is also a charter created office, but it's an independent entity underneath us, though the ombudsman does have a very long history and context for many of the issues that we face on a day-to-day basis. And so like in my universe, I rely on the clerk's office, the attorneys, and the legislative services to get just about everything done that's internal to the branch. Then there is this whole other 2,200 member employee base that, Ethan, when he was mayor, said to me, they're also your employees. Make sure you think of them that way. We don't supervise the administration, and in fact are not in the day-to-day operations of anything, and even shouldn't be in the day-to-day operations of the branch, our branch, right? We're the board, we are the legislative body. And so it's hard for us to stay in our lanes. Everybody has their lanes, and there's a little bit of a bleed. I won't use your term, but it's what George has said, like we're all kind of sovereign and figuring it out. So as I have said to just about everybody who's coming in new that I've had a chance to, the staff of the whole municipality are your best allies. They're the teams, they're the people who will make sure you are successful if you establish a good working relationship with them and you protect those relationships. And so that is my humble advice to everybody is find the staff on the matters that are important to you. Build relationships with them. Don't assume relationships. Don't assume a power dynamic because it just never works out well. The assembly has the sovereign power, and each member has the power that they can generate by their connection with the people doing the work. The mayor is the lone individual with that kind of political power here. Our power is by a majority of 7. That's where ours and our authority in the charter comes from. And so to answer your question succinctly after that long kind of diatribe, really start within the branch, learn the mechanisms of how the things are going to work here, and then begin immediately reaching out to the people who are in charge of the departments on the things that mean something to you. That's probably the best way because my college's motto was learn by doing. And I find that to be the only way you're going to figure out all of the complexities. Do a ride along, schedule it with the police, do a ride along with the fire department, go to all the places, go to the water treatment plant with AWU, take a tour of the port. Begin by learning and seeing and listening what's happening. And I think that would be my advice to answer that question. Zach.
Yeah, I'll just add to that briefly. So the way we have the committee structure, all of the departments answer to one committee or another, right? So if you start going to the committee meetings pretty quickly, you'll start to figure out who's where and who the good people to talk to in each of them are. So I would encourage new members as your schedule and appetites allow. I think it's worthwhile to try and check out all the committees, not even the ones that you're not necessarily a member of, because it's just a great place to kind of figure out who's who and who to go to. Because every one of those departments will show up at each of them at one point or another.
Anna?
Yeah, I think I would definitely echo a lot of what Chris said in terms of building relationships with departments or just folks who are working on topics. So I'll give 2 examples. When I first started, I wanted to better understand the port. And so I reached out to the port director and we did a tour because I hadn't been out there for several years. And in that conversation, we were driving around and it wasn't because I needed a specific answer. It was literally just tell me what I need to know. Another example is recently I met with Daniel King, who is in the building services or building development services department, working on the building code rewrite. So I wasn't asking what is every single change, but where are you at? What are some of the things that you anticipate are going to be sticky or just kind of getting a status update and just asking a lot of real basic questions, so even if it's for information, obviously you want to be mindful of everyone's time, but I found that's a really great way to learn. And then the other thing I would say is one question, because I joke that I'm a terminal office worker. That's just, what my whole career has been, is really thinking about the question of who's your boss. Because the answer is there is no boss. And also the entire public is your boss, right? Your district. And so I found myself thinking like, wait, do I need to tell somebody if I have to miss a meeting? I mean, obviously if there's our regular meetings, you have a duty to vote, but there are situations where you may need to miss a meeting or call into it, right? So managing that, if you're on vacation or you're out or you have an emergency, something like that, that's a conversation to have with the chair and leadership if there's missing that. But also, no one's taking attendance. No one is saying, did you go to this work session or not, right? So that is for you to manage, and that for me at least that took a while to get to. And also though, if you do miss everything, or, you know, you're not responding to emails all the time, right? There is a cost to that. There's a political cost or a constituent relationship cost. So that's just something to manage. And it is hard because there's just more expectation on all of us than we could ever meet. But just to say, I think it's for those at least who are stepping into this from a more regular job, it's a mindset shift that you may not be anticipating. But yeah, you're your own boss, and also all those folks out there all over the city see themselves as your boss. So it's a challenge.
There is some truth there. Everyone thinks you are here to do what they want. It's an interesting conundrum with 48,500 of those. Others, inputs, questions, comments? So we have about 12 minutes. Mark.
I have a real quick one. You have a responsibility to your district and your constituents. You're going to get calls from them, and you're going to get calls from other people in other districts. I've had a few of those. They're going to ask you, why didn't you support this? Why didn't you support that? How come you're doing this? How come you're doing that? Your answer should be, everybody's looking, should be your answer. Okay? You got here by your merits. You got here by your ability. And you need to hold true to those benefits that you guys bring forward to everybody. It's your answer. Please be your answer.
Mark, I have something similar. I wrote my notes down, and kind of the next thing on the agenda is just a speed round of giving advice along the way if there's anything that pops up, which is much like what we've been doing. But I have this conversation with Dan a lot. Like, there are conflicting hot items, and people in the community may not like what you're doing and what you're saying, or how you're doing it, or how you're saying it. And you may change how you say something or what processes you use, but really it's important to have your value set, because you being authentic is the thing that I believe is the key to your success in your work, and your work with us, your work with the administration, your work with the community as a whole. That said, I often hear from people who come from different partisan stripes than me, you know, I don't always agree with you, but I really appreciate the work you're doing. And I laugh. I have generated a permanent response. I get this tattooed on my body that, you know, it's funny. I don't always agree with myself after a good debate. And so the point of this work is not to come in and know what you know and then do what you do because you know. It's to come in with what you know and to listen to the whole thing. And then from that conversation, make the best decision on the facts before you. You might have a different opinion after than when you started. And please enjoy that space and be in that space, because that's the best part of this. There are some moments on that dais when the whole thing goes this different way. And it was a collective moment where everyone was like, wait a minute, wow. And then you do it, and it's stunning, the difference from where you started to where you ended, and it's so much better. And so my advice is, know what you know, feel what you feel, believe what you believe, have core values, and at the same time, listen. Because in that listening, you will learn and grow and be better at your job. Thank you, Mark. Meg.
Learn the rules. Learn Robert's rules. It is a part of your job to learn the rules. The rules are how you make your policy happen. It is not personal. It is how you are effective. So I remember as a baby lawyer, I was told to learn the rules because the rules win cases. Rules get your policy done. I want to add something to what Christopher and Mark said. We have a reconsideration period. If you sleep on it and you don't feel okay with it, it's okay. It's okay to change your mind. That's what that mechanism is there for. So that's okay. It's part of being true to yourself and knowing what you have to do. You can't explain it to anyone. I love Kevin Cross. We had a very interesting campaign where he was running for his seat while I was running for my first reelection, and he had some real firm opinions about some things. And we had a conversation later, and it's very different when you have to press that button, yes or no, because you do not get to abstain. And you have to own what you press in that moment, yes or no. And for 4 of us here, we pressed some buttons that were really hard to press. And I think the last meeting, there was that kind of maybe one of the first time for some of the current members, like actions have consequences and you got to be able to live with them. My predecessor is Dick Training. Talk about a big seat to fill. And he told me, you need to be able to go to sleep at night, live with yourself, And if you couldn't in the next morning, that there are remedies for that. And I thought those were really wise words. The other thing he said is you only get a limited time, haha, coming from him, 19 years of service, on that dais, but you should use it. Don't be a potted plant. You are there, own your seat, do the work. So, yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword a little bit, like, and temperatures can run high on the dais. Leave it on the dais. Christopher and I, we can feel each other vibrate sometimes. Karen and I too. But also, I believe help your fellow members. Like if they want to get emotion out there or something out there, I may not agree with it, but I really believe you should learn the rules. But if you don't know the rules, ask for help, and hopefully a member will help you, because I think that's also important. Is that mentorship? You are all walking into seats that have a senior member. Use your partners. I think that's also really important. They know a lot. And their style is maybe different than yours, but I would definitely talk to them. They've had an experience.
Karen. Anna.
Yeah, I think on the topic of hard votes, I think that I will echo that wise wisdom, but also that's why we're here. I mean, when it comes down to it, the reason that we are elected and why the system created this whole representative government system is somebody has to make that hard vote, that hard decision. And so I think that whenever that hard vote comes up for you all, you'll feel it and have all the emotions that have been said. But that at the end of the day, that is really the core part of this job, not the easy things to do. And so it's just something you'll have to sit with, and it's a weird feeling to work through, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, and I would offer that to Meg's point about the tensions, it is maybe one of the hardest things to learn is to have a fight of ideas. Our work, we really work hard to keep it not be about personalities. It's about ideas. That's what Robert's Rules of Order is all about. Talk about the idea, talk about what you're talking about, not the person. But we're people. It's a people-based system, and you will inevitably feel feelings about the debate you just had with whoever that other person is or other people, and it gets spicy. It's hard to put that to bed that night and come back tomorrow and open your hand and shake their hand and be warm and open to the idea of we can still work together. And that happens time and time and time and time again. I think it's at least since I've been on the body, except for a very rare exception, it has been the norm that people are able to put it to bed when they go to bed and come back tomorrow, and we're going to live to fight another day on all of these other issues. And figuring that out is tricky because it feels personal when you're sitting up there and the cameras are on and the people there and you're having this public disagreement, and it turns warm and loud and feels personal. So figuring out how to do that is a pretty critical skill, and you only get there through it, not looking at it. And so that's the job. And I think I would have one last note. We're getting close to done. Social media, as Daniel pointed out, it's a terrible place to have a public debate, and it never really resolves the issue, and it just puts you out there in a very difficult way. I strongly recommend, in the light of Supreme Court decisions, if you are going to use your social media for the purposes of public business, have a public social media page, not your personal pages, lest you lose control of the privacy of your personal pages. And that would be a disaster if you're in that space. And one other piece of advice on that topic is turn off notifications. I've said that to some folks, turn it off. Go to it when you're in the space for it. Do not let it drive your time and schedule. It's toxic, and it will make you crazy if you let it. And so don't let it. And with that, Claire, I don't know that we have ever provided copies of Robert's Rules of Order. I actually went, I was going to buy everybody a set, but they didn't have enough. But there's also this in brief version that is way more accessible to normal people.
I have the as applied version.
Right, it's that simple, as applied or the in brief, and maybe we could secure copies for folks. And we will do training on the rules. You don't have to worry about it. The more you know, the better you are. But you pick it up. We do have some, the attorneys always have it and the clerk. And so there's always copies, but at that point it's too hard. So I have echoes over here, stereo. Who wants first?
I went first. I
Go
haven't
ahead.
talked as much. Just kidding. There's a resource that I use called Jurassic Parliament. I first used it when I was elected to my community council, and then I revisited it when I was elected to the assembly. And she has a module that is specifically for newly electeds that go over all the basics that you would really need. Jurassic Parliament.
I think the clerk actually uses, there's the person who's in charge of that program who's like renowned. But I think between the clerk and myself and Dean, we probably could go up against any other state or community, others too. I'm not saying others aren't, but the three of us could go. And if I brought Meg, we would win in some national competitions on Robert's rules. And there are Jeopardy games and other tools where you can learn those rules.
It's something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so if you want to make a move on a night and you don't know where to start or what to do, just email the clerk.
Yep.
The clerk will forever write you a script so you get it right. Because the clerk also wants to know what your moves are going to be because it makes it easier for the clerk to administer the meeting. It stays confidential, but it is so good. When I was a new member, Barbara Jones, I would go, this is what I'd like to do. She sounds, well, it sounds like you want to do this, then this, then this. Yes, that's great. And she'd write it out and I would just read it. And then it becomes, you make good habits.
And I would offer that the clerk is in fact in the code our parliamentarian. And so on those judgment calls, the chair would rule, but the parliamentarian is the advisor. But the attorney also is always involved in those questions because when you get into the real Robert's rules, not the as applied or the in brief version, it is arcane and very fine detailed. And but our code, of course, you know, we have the U.S. Constitution and the U.S. law, the state constitution, the state law. We have our charter, which is our constitution. It is the ultimate binding document. Then our code implements the charter. Then we have Robert's rules. The legislature uses Mason's different rules. But if Robert's rules doesn't speak to it, it's custom. If the code doesn't speak to it, it's Robert's rules. So, but you'll figure all that out. That's way down in the weeds. So there's plenty of time for that. Okay, any other thoughts? This would be the last work session for the outgoing members. So we're going to allow each of them the floor to say whatever they might want to on the way out that are here. So we'll start with you.
Well, I started earlier and I just want to commend the staff over there, the legislative staff and the legislative clerks and everything else, and the legislative legal people. They're absolutely phenomenal. They've helped me in every step that I needed. And thank you, Chris, for being there when I needed you. And Meg and everybody else, you've all helped out. I wish I could have been here longer, but something came into my life and I want to spend more time there. You all know what it's all about. So thank you very much for everything you've done for me, and move forward, progress. Thanks.
And I will note though that we do have this process again will occur a bit more on the dais on Tuesday. So you will have an opportunity to speak again, but go ahead. And thank you for your service. But we will again have this conversation on Tuesday. Meg.
Yeah, I've been really thinking about the process of transition. My life is full of transition right now, big transitions. And how to walk through them with some kind of grace, thoughtfulness. I'm not going to make it through this. This is why I'm going to say it now and not on the dais Tuesday night. And to really be thankful for, I've become Cameron. I'm a process person. But really the process, we move so fast in this world. And this 6 years went by in the blink of an eye. And it's been profound. Oh. So enjoy every moment. I've enjoyed every moment, literally with everyone I've served with, mostly. Those of you who are here knew I enjoyed the hard times. Believe it or not, you know, the Bronson administration was a really hard time. but I grew so much as a person. And I found in the end that someone I really didn't feel like I was seeing eye to eye on or eye to eye with, we accomplished some big things together. And so it's in those moments when you're working with someone you didn't think you would work with, because it's so important to our community. That's where the growth is. I will never look at the city the same way again. I am hoping to maybe stop paying attention to every pothole and every sewer drain that needs to be repaired. But when they say this is public service, it is truly service, but it is really the best kind of service. I never thought I would end up in one of these seats. And yeah, I'm just really thankful to everyone, and really the members in the past as well. I've got such great friends out of this, and I'll always keep all of that. Plus, collect the swag while you can.
I think nothing further needs saying. We'll be adjourned and be back together on Tuesday at 5 p.m. for a consequential meeting. We're adjourned.